If they change the play. Fifth Rivers. Broncos are bringing some people. It's picked up nicely. McMary options to Rivers. Trying to turn the corner. Look at there. Scores into the orange. Marcus.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Top 25 breakdown. Today we have number 18.
Fresno State.
Yeah.
Bulldogs.
Fresno State did a really good job last year. They've been pretty consistent for the most part the last couple of years.
Just the last 2 years. The year before, what's his name? Jeff Tedford. Jeff Tedford came in. He inherited a 1-11 team. Trash.
Very bad.
Ass cheeks.
Yeah.
And then he made him 10-4 off the jump. And then now last year they went 12-2. So fantastic.
Yeah, they're getting better.
This head coach is good.
Yeah, strong. And also the fact that they had a really good quarterback last year.
Yeah, they had McMarion for a while, or 3 seasons. Like he was the go-to. He was the starter for 3 seasons, I think. Or he saw a lot of playing time when they went 1-11, but they obviously couldn't.
Right.
They couldn't win the games. But
and looking at their 2018 schedule, they were pretty good, obvioly.
Dude, they started the season off, slapped the fucking dog piss out of Idaho.
Okay.
Excuse the vulgarity. 79-13. What a way to start the season. I understand it's Idaho. I get it. They're not great, but I mean, when you're putting 79 points on any team, it's a great start to the season. You have to act right there. You're hyped. Doesn't matter who you play. You're hyped. And
then they lost a 7-point game to Minnesota. At UCLA. They destroyed UCLA.
Gave it to UCLA.
Beat Toledo, Nevada, Wyoming, New Mexico, Hawaii.
They're putting numbers.
UNLV. They lost to Boise State in the regular season. Then they beat San Diego State, San Jose State, and then they beat Boise State in the Mountain West Championship.
At Boise State.
Yeah.
On the blue turf.
Right, and then they beat an Arizona State team. They beat 2 Pac-12 teams in one season.
Throw them in the Pac-12. I'm joking. No, they really had a good season. 12-2. Really, phenomenal for Fresno State standards, I would say.
So shout out to the Mountain West for getting 4 teams already, 3 or 4 in the top 25 already.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's honestly what separates them from the American.
Yeah, because the American can only really they only have UCF and maybe Cincinnati to really kind of bolster.
But moving on to concerns for the 2019 season, what do you think one of the concerns is?
Definitely the quarterback position, because they lost Marcus McMarion.
Right.
That was a go-to guy, and I haven't known Fresno State to be prolific in quarterbacks, but after losing that leadership in Marcus and the experience in Marcus, they don't have a go-to guy from here on out. They do have Jorge Reyna, and they do have Ben Woldridge. Which are both sharing snaps. I saw they're sharing snaps over in the spring, and I think they named Reyna the starter, but for the coming season. But even then, they don't have a lot of experience. They don't have and I don't think they have a lot of leadership on the team in the sense that nobody's gonna be looking to them to guide them, to win, to will them to win games. So.
Also, the fact that they lost, 13 of their 22.
13 total starters on starters.
The whole offense and defense, but 8 on offense. That's a huge.
8 on offense.
That's a huge.
That's a loss.
Yeah.
The offense is gonna be pretty much new. They bring back one lineman. They bring back both the running backs that share the last snaps. They bring back their go-to tight end. That's it. The starting receivers gone. McMarion gone, obviously. O-line. Brand new. Yeah, the running game does get its key parts back with Ronnie Rivers and Jordan Mims, who can catch the ball out of the backfield. They do it really well. Their own little personal thunder and lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, dude, their offense is going to be tough if they can't get it rolling early, or they can't get it meshing early in the summer going into the season. It's not going to be a tough season. It's going to be a tough season for Fresno.
Also, a defense is going to be hard to replicate with their success from 2019, just for the fact that they lost bodies, and it's hard to do it 2 times in a row.
It is. So they lost key pieces, but they also have some guys coming back. It's more like they're just gonna be plugging in, going, seeing who can really fill the role. They're also moving some players from. They're moving some players around. They're moving Michael Walker from the end all the way to the middle linebacker, which is kind of in my opinion, I don't know if that's gonna be a great move. Again, I'm not on the team. I'm not part of the coaching staff. They see something in him that can really benefit them as he transitions to linebacker, then so be it.
Sticking to what you just said about Michael Walker, there's a lot of questions about his size because he was undersized as a D end because of his height. He's only 6'3", and then they're going to move him to linebacker,
Yep.
and his weight's only 227, and that's still considered a very undersized linebacker.
Yeah. Pretty thin frame.
Yeah, especially when most linebackers would be either 240 or 250-ish.
Yeah, maybe stockier.
But he made a splash in 2018 with racking up 87 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, and a pick 6. He's one of the Mountain West top playmakers.
It's what's more surprising to me, what that you just read, is that he got 87 tackles as a DN.
Yeah.
He was listed as a DN. He may have already been playing a bit of linebacker last season.
Right.
But like 87 tackles, he's already playing like a linebacker if he was a listed DN. So I think this transition is really good for him. It's gonna probably highlight his strength, his personal strengths, and hopefully throughout the spring and this summer, the coaching staff has been able to build that even further.
Right.
So
yeah.
he might even top 100 tackles this coming season. Not have as many tackle for losses or sacks. He might even get more picks though if he's gonna be sitting in the middle of the field. So
yeah, Mountain West Conference has pretty good linebackers.
Yeah.
In the group of 5.
Underappreciated linebackers, I'd have to say.
Right. Now that we don't know how he'll do as a linebacker, but if he does as good as he did as defensive end, he'll probably make All-America status, or at least All-Conference. One of the weaknesses was the quarterback position. They have a brand new quarterback, and it's going to be hard replacing Marcus Marion just for the mere fact that he ran this system for 2 years. And also, he completed 69% of his throws for 3,629 yards and 25 scores with just 5 picks.
That's like NFL type stats.
That's almost like college football, like NCAA, video game numbers.
Yeah, video numbers. Did he have any rushing stats? Did it say?
Yeah, he ran. Oh, and then he ran for 8 of them. It ran for 8 scores, 8 additional scores.
What a man! He was their team. He was their team last year. Now, he was the guy on offense. Obviously, he's a quarterback, but he was also complemented well with the solid defense from last year.
Also, he had a lot of good receivers that left. So another weakness would be obviously the receivers, just because of that depth and all that loss of receivers. So that'll be very interesting to see how they do with that.
Including, as you mentioned, the receivers. They had Keyshawn Johnson, who was actually, as I'm reading it, the all-time leader in catches and yards in Fresno State history.
Really?
Yeah. So not only was Marcus McMarion a great quarterback, he also had Fresno State, or he made Keyshawn Johnson the best receiver in Bulldog history. So they had a stellar year last year. 12-2 is obviously it's a great record. Any team would love to be 12-2. So it's going to be tough to get back to that or get anywhere close to that.
Right, especially with the losses that are so detrimental to like how your team works. Moving on to the 2019 schedule, it's not hard, but it's not easy. It's pretty good and it's workable especially for
a team that's rebuilding.
Exactly.
You gotta rebuild.
They start hard, a little tough with at USC.
That's tough.
And then hosting Minnesota. Those 2 first games are very key to how they set the tone for the season. I think if they do well, like keep it, I guess, competitive in the first half, I guess it's okay. I think Minnesota's a much more a winnable game just because of how close it was last year. I think that matchup between the head coaches is very interesting to see with PJ Fleck and Jeff Tedford. That'll be very interesting. They're both in their 3rd years. Then they move on to a bye week and then hosting Sacramento State at New Mexico State, another bye. So just in the first 6 weeks, they've already had 2 byes. That could be a problem come later in the season.
Could be.
Just because of like fatigue and injuries and piling up and all that stuff.
Or it could be a blessing. in disguise, where they can iron out some things, iron out some issues, or get more team chemistry flowing during these off weeks.
Right. That's a pretty good point. After their last bye, they go to Air Force, and then they host UNLV, host Colorado State, at Hawaii, which is going to be a trip to Hawaii. Hosting Utah State, at San Diego State, Nevada, at San Jose State, and if they're good enough, or their record's good enough, they'll go to the Mountain West Conference Championship.
Repeat.
Yeah.
Repeat.
It's a very tough challenge, but I think that if everything goes right and if they fix everything, I think they could possibly get back to the Mountain West Championship.
Get back there?
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, that start of the season is pretty tough. It ended, and they have to do well to set a tone for the rest of the season.
Right.
That being said, it's tough because these two are out of conference. We're expecting USC to be phenomenally better than they were last year, and Minnesota is also building just like you mentioned with PJ Fleck. So we kind of understand that they're going to probably lose those two games. Fresno State's probably going to lose these two games.
Right.
Minnesota is winnable for them as we're looking at it on paper right now. But I'm thinking they're 0-2, but as long as they stay competitive, that enough can be setting the tone for the rest of the season.
I think if they, like you said, competitive, and if they lose a tight one with Minnesota, I think they'll be okay for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm. And then that will give them enough energy to kind of think about it and be like, well, if we can stick around with Minnesota, we can definitely either hang around or beat these teams in the Mountain West that we're about to see here in conference.
Right, and their toughest game in the Mountain West, I would say, is going to be Utah State and probably at San Diego State. Those two toughest games that they would have to win to obviously go to the Mountain West Championship.
And as we normally see, San Diego State normally is fairly solid team in the Mountain West. And they always have that kind of one-punch duo also in the running back position. But normally San Diego State does do very well in the Mountain West. So and also Utah State, as we did a video on them previously.
Right. Go check that
out. Those two teams are going to be their toughest challenges within conference.
Right. So with this schedule, what do you think the worst case scenario is for this rebuilding team?
This rebuilding team, this worst case scenario, I'm thinking they're going 4-8 or 5-7.
Yeah. Okay. I got them. That's about what I got them. I have them about like 4 to 5 wins, 4-ish wins.
It's tough. It's tough with the amount of loss that they're seeing in offense. It's going to be hard to get back to 12 wins. So I think worst case scenario, if everything goes bad, 4 wins.
Right, like you mentioned, it's tough. It's going to be tough to replicate that kind of offense with the loss of a great quarterback and receivers. But they do have a tight end that's going to be go-to tight end a lot. I do think that that they will go 4 wins. Worst case scenario. What do you think the most likely scenario is for them?
Most likely scenario. I still think this is a solid. If they're able to get the offense rolling decently,
right.
I think they still have good enough players that they can get back to a bowl. So 6-6 or 7-5. Surprise you with a win that you might not be expecting.
My most likely scenario is I do think that they will get it going, but I don't think it'll be early. I think it'll be later, and I do think that they'll go 5-7.
Yep.
I think they miss a bowl this year just because of the losses on offense. Defense is still getting like personnel's moving around on the defensive side.
Right.
But what do you think the best case scenario for them is?
Best case scenario, and this is the caveat is if everything's rolling on offense, they've answered most of the questions on offense and whatnot. Best case scenario, I'm thinking they win 8 games or 9 games. So either 8-4 or 9-3. And 9-3 is pushing. That's
a really good year.
That might be out of their realm.
That's a really good year, especially with the losses that they've had.
Oh yeah, if they get back to 9-3, and that's not. I don't want to say it's too far out of reach, just because they have Jeff Tedford, because and solely off his 2 seasons, he turned around a 1-11 Fresno State team to 10-4.
Right.
So,
yeah. So he can win.
Definitely.
But I guess we'll just have to see how he does this year. I do think that my best case scenario would be that they go 8-4, and they go back to the Mountain West Championship game.
That's wow. You're putting a lot of weight on their shoulders here.
Right. I think it's a lot of weight, but I do think that with the right coach, I do think that
that
kind of adds a couple wins to you.
That's fair.
So with Jeff Tedford, I do think that that's a huge piece. Even if the offense coordinator is new, I do think that he still has his own like offense.
He's been in the system.
Right.
He got promoted.
Oh, so it's not really a whole new offensive coordinator, really, then.
He might change the packages up, but yeah.
Yeah, but having Jorge Reyna be in the system for already 2 years, having spring already and going into the summer and the fall camp, I do think that is very impactful on how the season turns out, just because of the fact that everything kind of relies on him this year, because he has to get the ball moving.
It all depends on how he develops, really. Because he's gonna be well taken care of in the running game. Those two kids in the back already have their experience. They're probably gonna be the leaders on the offensive side of the ball. So he has nothing to worry about with his running backs. What he has to worry about is his offensive line and his receivers, and whether he can trust them and whether he can develop himself to be a better quarterback than what he is now.
Yeah, you make a good point.
We got it all.
That's about it. Hey, thanks guys for watching this video. If you guys liked it, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe because it helps us out. Comment below. Tell us what you think of the Fresno State Bulldogs.
Fresno State Bulldogs.
And see what they'll do this year. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.